Chapter 1. The Weight of Sacrifice. I used to believe that love and loyalty were enough to hold a family together, that no matter how bad things got, a daughter's sacrifice would be repaid with gratitude, not betrayal. For 2 years, I sent my father $12,000 every month, convincing myself I was saving him, saving us. But one morning, as sunlight spilled across my kitchen counter, I opened my bank app and saw the truth staring back at me. Yacht rentals, luxury hotels, and designer stores. My money hadn't saved his company. It had bought his new life. That was the day I realized love could be a weapon, and family could be the hand that holds the blade. My name is Emma Jennings, and this is the story of how I lost my father and found my freedom. Back then, I didn't know that one ordinary morning would change everything. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand, its familiar buzz pulling me out of a restless sleep. The numbers on the clock blinked 7:15 a.m., and I immediately felt that familiar knot of anxiety settle in my chest. Another day, another transfer. I sat up slowly, running a hand through my hair, my thoughts still tangled in a haze of exhaustion. For the past 2 years, I had been sending $12,000 every month to my father, John. He ran Jennings Technologies, a tech company that had been struggling ever since he had made that big leap into trying to bring it to the next level. The idea had seemed good at the time, putting all his money into expanding his business, hiring new staff, innovating, but now it felt like a never-ending cycle. I opened the bank app on my phone, and the familiar transaction history appeared. My heart dropped as I looked at the latest transfer I had just made. It was the same as every other month. But this time, I scrolled further and noticed the other charges that had piled up in the past few weeks. It was hard to ignore the stark contrast between what I had been told and what I was now seeing. Yacht rentals, a private jet booking to some exotic location, spa treatments, fine dining. I clicked on the details, and the total amount of my father's personal expenditures hit me like a slap in the face. This wasn't business spending. It was him, living a life I could no longer justify supporting. I felt sick to my stomach. How could I have been so blind? I had been sending him money every month, telling myself it was helping the business. Helping him, the man who had always been there for me growing up. The man who worked so hard to provide for me after my mother passed. But looking at those receipts now, the picture became clearer. I wasn't helping him save the company. I was helping him sustain a lifestyle he had no intention of giving up. I leaned back against the headboard, trying to steady my breath. The weight of it all pressed down on me like a heavy blanket. The sacrifices I'd made for him over the years had started to feel like a burden. I had dipped into my savings account, drained my retirement fund, even put off buying things I needed, all because I believed in him. But he wasn't just losing money on his business. He was losing my trust. I couldn't keep going like this. It was suffocating. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Patricia, my aunt. She had always been a voice of reason in my life, someone who called things as they were without sugarcoating the truth. "Emma, I hope you're okay. He's still trying to pull you in. Don't let him do it." I stared at the message for a long time, feeling a sting of guilt. Patricia had been warning me for months, urging me to stop supporting my father. She had seen what I refused to see. But I had ignored her. I had convinced myself that my father needed me, that he deserved my help, that I had to do this because he had always been there for me, even when I didn't ask. But now, I was starting to see the truth. And the truth felt ugly. I called Patricia back, the phone ringing once before she picked up. "Emma." Her voice was soft but firm. "What's going on? You sound off." "I don't know what to do, Patricia," I said, my voice trembling. I found out some things. My dad, he's been using my money for personal expenses, not to save the company. I thought I was helping him, but now I realize I've just been an ATM for him." There was a long pause on the other end. I could feel her processing what I was saying. Finally, she spoke, her voice filled with a kind of sadness I hadn't expected. "I knew it. she said quietly. I've been telling you, Emma. He's been using you for years. You can't keep sacrificing yourself like this. You've been trying to fix everything for him, but it's time to fix things for yourself. Her words hit me harder than I expected. It was like someone had finally said the thing I had been too scared to admit. I wasn't just helping him anymore. I was enabling him. I had let him manipulate me for so long, believing that I was doing the right thing, that I was fulfilling my duty as a daughter. But now I saw it for what it really was. I don't know how to stop, I admitted. I feel guilty. He's my dad. He needs me. Emma, you've done enough, Patricia said, her voice sharp but filled with care. You're not responsible for his business. You're not responsible for his mistakes. He's the one who's been lying to you, not the other way around. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of her words sink in. She was right. I had to stop. I had to protect myself now. I couldn't keep going down this road. Okay, I said, the decision finally solidifying in my chest. I'm going to call him. I'm going to tell him I'm done. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke softly. I'm proud of you. But be careful. He'll try to talk his way out of it, manipulate you again. Don't let him. I won't, I said, the words coming out stronger than I expected. This is it, Patricia. I'm done. That night, I dialed my father's number. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to press the call button. When he picked up, I couldn't even bring myself to say hello. We need to talk, I said, my voice low but firm. I know, Emma, he said, his voice already full of excuses. I know I've been under a lot of pressure with the business. But you have to understand, I'm doing everything I can to keep it afloat. No, I interrupted, taking a deep breath. You've been using me. Using my money. You haven't been saving the business, Dad. You've been saving yourself. You've been lying to me, and I'm done. There was a silence on the other end. I could feel the tension rising. He had never heard me talk like this before. Emma, please. I didn't mean for it to go this far. You're all I've got left. You've always had me, Dad. But you've taken too much. I can't do this anymore. I'm not your ATM. I'll fix this, he said, but I could tell he was panicking. Please, Emma. You don't understand. If you leave me, everything falls apart. You're the only one who can save it. No, Dad, I said, my voice steady now. I'm not saving it. I'm saving myself. I'm done helping you. The silence that followed felt final. The words I had needed to say for so long were finally out in the open. I didn't need his approval anymore. I didn't need to carry this burden any longer. I'm filing a lawsuit, I said. I'm taking what's mine. And you can't stop me. The words hung in the air. His silence said everything. I wasn't sure if I had won, but I knew I was finally free. Chapter 2. The Betrayal. I wasn't sure if I had won, but I knew I was finally free. The weight in my chest was still there, heavy with the decisions I had made, but there was a strange sense of relief, like I could finally breathe again. But the relief was short-lived. The truth I had uncovered about my father, the lies he'd fed me, the manipulation, none of it was something I could easily forget. It would take time to process, to untangle the mess he'd left behind in my mind. And for the first time in a long time, I had no idea what came next. The battle was just beginning. The night after our conversation, I couldn't sleep. My mind wouldn't shut off. I tossed and turned, the same thoughts cycling through my head over and over again. I had always believed that my sacrifices were for the right reasons, helping my father, supporting his dream, watching him struggle in his old age. But now I saw it all for what it really was: manipulation. I'd been nothing more than a means to an end for him. He hadn't been building a legacy, he'd been building his own comfort at my expense. I reached for my phone, the weight of my thoughts pulling me back into the nightmare I had tried to escape. The notifications and emails from the past few days felt like a blur, all of them in some way related to my father's business, his ongoing failures. I needed to make sure I wasn't imagining things. I needed the full picture. I opened the banking app on my phone and scrolled through the last month's transactions again. My fingers hovered over the screen as I looked at the same charges, but this time, I felt my stomach drop. There were more than just a few discrepancies. There were dozens of them, each one adding up to something that felt deeply wrong. Luxury resort stays, expensive restaurant bills, a yacht rental in Miami last month, for God's sake. I felt sick. This wasn't a business expense. This was his lifestyle, paid for by my money, and I had been blind to it all this time. I leaned back against the couch, staring at the screen, my mind spinning. How had I let this go on? I had been sending money, working hard to keep my own life in balance, all the while thinking I was helping him. But he hadn't even been honest with me. He hadn't even been trying to make it work. He was living like he didn't have a care in the world, while I had been scraping by. The tears that I had held back for so long started to fall, but this time, they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of rage. I had been betrayed by the one person I had trusted the most. I had spent so many years believing in him, in his business, in his dream, and now I was left with nothing but emptiness. I grabbed my phone again, wiping my eyes, and scrolled through my contacts until I found Patricia's name. She was the only one who had been warning me about him, the only one who had seen the truth when I couldn't. When she picked up, I didn't waste any time. "Patricia, I know what's been happening." I found the receipts. He's been using my money for his own personal expenses. He's been living off me. I could feel her exhale on the other end, the tension in her voice now replaced with sad acceptance. "I knew it, Emma. I've been telling you for months. He's been doing this for years. You've been his lifeline." "I don't know why I didn't see it before," I said, my voice trembling with anger. "He's been telling me the business is on the brink of failure, that he needed my help to keep it afloat. But now I know it was all a lie. He's been spending it all on himself, on luxuries he doesn't even need." Patricia was quiet for a moment, but then she spoke softly. "You have to stop, Emma. You can't keep doing this. You're not helping him anymore. You're enabling him. He'll never change. You have to protect yourself now." I took a deep breath, feeling a shift in me as her words sank in. I had been helping him for so long because I felt like it was the right thing to do. But now I saw the truth. I had been the one being taken advantage of. "You're right," I said, the anger in my chest slowly transforming into something else, something more empowered. "I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to confront him. I'm going to call him out on everything." "I'm proud of you," Patricia said, her voice steady and sure. "But don't be surprised if he tries to pull you back in. He's not going to let you go easily." "I'm done," I said, my voice finally firm. "I'm cutting him off. I've given him everything I have, and I can't do it anymore." The next morning I called my father. My hand was shaking as I dialed his number, but I was determined. The phone rang once, then twice, and finally he picked up. His voice sounded the same as always, calm, collected, like nothing was wrong. "Emma? What's going on?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk. Now." There was a pause, followed by a sigh. Okay. "I've been busy, but I'll make time. Let's meet later today." I could already tell he was trying to dodge it, but I wasn't going to let him get away with it. "Meet me at the office," I said. "I'll be there in an hour." When I arrived at the office, the familiar sight of Tech Vantage made me feel like I was walking into a different world. It was sleek, modern, and corporate, the very image of what I thought my father was building. But now it all seemed so hollow. I made my way to his office, where he was already waiting for me, standing behind his desk. He looked almost the same as he always did, polished, authoritative, the CEO in charge. But there was something empty in his eyes when he saw me walk in. "Emma," he said, his voice too smooth, "what's this about?" "You're looking serious." I didn't sit down. I couldn't. I was standing, facing him, feeling the weight of everything I had to say. "I know what you've been doing," I said, my voice colder than I expected. "I know about the money. The yacht rentals, the vacations, the personal expenses. You've been using my money for your own comfort, not to save the company. His face flickered with guilt for a moment, but it quickly turned into defensiveness. Emma, I'm doing what I have to do. The business is struggling. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. No, I said, shaking my head. I understand perfectly. You've been using me. You've been living off my sacrifices while I've been scraping by. He looked away, unable to meet my eyes. I never meant for it to go this far, Emma. I've just been trying to keep everything afloat. By using me? I asked, my voice rising. By lying to me? I'm not your backup plan anymore, Dad. I've had enough. He stood up then, his anger flashing in his eyes. You don't get it. You're throwing everything away. Your family, your future. Don't you care about what happens to us? No, I said firmly, stepping closer to him. Not anymore. I care about myself. I care about what's right. There was a long silence, one that stretched out, thick with unspoken words. Finally, I spoke again. I'm filing a lawsuit, I said, the decision clear and final. I'm going after the patent for the algorithm I developed. I'm taking what's mine, and I'm not going to let you steal it from me. His face twisted, and I could see the desperation rising in him. You don't know what you're doing, Emma. This is your family. You can't destroy everything we've built. I'm not destroying anything, I said, my voice steady. I'm just taking back what's mine. I turned and walked out of the office without looking back, knowing that I had made the right decision. But even though I felt the weight lift from my shoulders, I couldn't ignore the nervous excitement coursing through me. The battle had just begun. Chapter 3: The Confrontation. The battle had just begun. I could feel it, deep in my gut, the weight of what I had just decided. It wasn't going to be easy. I had finally drawn the line, but I knew that crossing it meant dealing with the fallout, especially when it came to my father. The thought of confronting him terrified me, but there was no other choice. I had to do this. That night, I hardly slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, the man I had always admired, the man I had always trusted, the man who had raised me, worked hard to give me a good life, or so I thought. But now, with everything I knew, that image was fading fast. The next morning, I pulled myself together and made the call. It was time. Hi, Dad, I said, trying to sound calm. My voice was shaky, but I was determined. We need to talk. There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear him shifting, probably surprised by the sudden call. What's going on? Everything okay? No, it's not, I replied, my grip tightening around the phone. I need to see you. In person. There was a hesitation before he responded. Emma, I don't know what this is about, but okay. I'll be in my office this afternoon. You can come by then. Fine, I said, hanging up without waiting for him to say more. I didn't want to hear any more excuses. I needed to see him, face to face, and finally have the conversation I had been avoiding for so long. The office was quieter than usual when I arrived, the air thick with tension that I could almost feel in my bones. I had been in that building hundreds of times, but today, everything felt different. The same gray walls, the same pristine desk. Nothing had changed except for me, and what I was about to do. As I made my way through the halls, I passed by the conference rooms, the meeting spaces, the place where my father had built his dream. But none of it felt important anymore. The shiny floors, the expensive decor, none of it mattered. The truth had cracked it all wide open, and there was no going back. I reached his office, hesitating for just a second before I knocked on the door. When he called me in, I opened it, stepping inside with a determination I hadn't felt in a long time. John stood up from behind his desk, his familiar smile lighting up his face. It was the same smile I had seen 1,000 times before, but today it didn't feel warm. It felt fake. Emma, he said, his voice full of surprise but trying to remain calm. What's going on? What's all this about? I didn't sit down. I couldn't. I had to stand my ground. I know what you've been doing, Dad, I said, my voice steady, though the words felt like stones in my mouth. I know you've been using my money for your personal expenses. You've been lying to me for months, telling me the business needed help, but you've been using me. His face faltered for just a moment, but then he quickly masked it with a defensive expression. Emma, what are you talking about? I've been working day and night to keep this company alive. You know that. I felt a rush of anger flood through me. I couldn't hold it back anymore. I've seen the receipts, Dad. The yacht rentals, the private jet flights, all of it. You've been using my money for luxuries, while I've been struggling to make ends meet. This isn't about the business. It's about you. He hesitated, clearly caught off guard. He opened his mouth to say something, but then closed it again. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he said, his voice low. I didn't know what else to do. The pressure's been too much. I needed a way to escape. I shook my head, every word he said only adding fuel to the fire inside me. You used me as your escape. I trusted you, Dad. I believed in you, and you've been taking advantage of me. He looked down at his desk, his hands tightening around the edges. You're wrong. You don't understand how hard this has been. I've worked my whole life for this company, for you, and now it's all falling apart. I can't lose it. I can't lose everything. The words he said seemed so empty now. How many times had I heard him say that? How many times had I stood by thinking I was helping him, only to realize that all I was doing was helping him avoid the consequences of his own actions? This isn't just about the company, Dad, I said, my voice growing colder with every word. This is about you. You've been lying to me, using my money to live a life you didn't deserve, and I can't keep enabling it. He stood up from behind his desk, his face contorted with frustration. You're making a mistake, Emma. You're throwing everything away. This is your family. You can't just abandon us. I crossed my arms, standing tall despite the tightness in my chest. I've been abandoned by you. All these years I've been helping you because I thought it was the right thing to do. But you've never cared about me. You've only cared about yourself. You've used me, and I'm done. The room fell silent for a long moment. My father was staring at me, his eyes hard but also pleading. I could see the desperation in him. He knew, deep down, that he couldn't change me. I wasn't the same daughter who had stood by him blindly, offering up everything she had. Finally, I spoke again, my voice steady. I'm filing a lawsuit, Dad. I'm going after the patent for the algorithm I developed. It's mine, and I'm not going to let you steal it from me anymore. His eyes widened, disbelief written all over his face. You can't do this. If you go after the patent, it'll ruin everything. The business, your future, everything we've built together. I held up a hand, silencing him. You've ruined everything, Dad. Not me. You did this to yourself, and I'm done fixing your mistakes. The words hit harder than I expected, but they felt right. It was over. This was it. I wasn't going to be his savior anymore. I wasn't going to let him drag me down with him. I turned on my heel and walked out of the office, my heart pounding in my chest. The finality of it all hit me like a wave. For the first time in a long time, I was walking away from him, and this time, I wasn't coming back. Chapter 4, The Fight for Justice. And this time, I wasn't coming back. The weight of the decision, the finality of it, pressed heavily on my chest as I sat at my desk in my apartment, staring at the papers in front of me. The lawsuit was filed. The wheels of justice were in motion, but I knew this was just the beginning. I had expected resistance, but I hadn't expected TechVantage to come at me so aggressively. Their legal team wasted no time launching a full-blown counterattack, questioning the legitimacy of my claims. Every document I submitted, every piece of evidence I presented, was scrutinized, dissected, and dissected again. Their lawyers had a simple strategy: attack my credibility. They didn't just want to win this case, they wanted to break me. At first I was overwhelmed. It felt like I was fighting against an army. TechVantage's lawyers were relentless, and every hearing felt like another battlefield. But I was no longer the person I had been. The helpless daughter, the one who had bent over backward for a man who had only used her, was gone. Now I was fighting for my future, for the truth that I had kept buried for too long. The first real turning point came when Gregory Sullivan, the CEO of Precision Systems, reached out to me. He had been following my case from the beginning, and, despite his company being a competitor of TechVantage, he saw potential in me. I wasn't sure what to think at first. I had been burned by family before, and the idea of trusting another business leader felt dangerous. But Gregory wasn't like the others. He wasn't trying to take advantage of me. He wasn't looking to buy me out. Instead, he wanted to help me. He called me one morning, his voice direct and confident as always. "Emma, I've been looking over the details of your patent," he said, "and I'm convinced that this is something valuable. TechVantage, well, they've never understood it. I'd like to offer to buy your rights." I paused, unsure how to respond. "You want to buy my patent?" "Not to own it, but to give you the freedom you need to keep it in the right hands," he explained. "I'm offering you the resources to develop it. Not for me, for you." It was the first time anyone had offered me something that wasn't tied to my family or my father's failing company. It was the first time I was being seen for my work, for what I had created, rather than just being the daughter of John Jennings. "I'll think about it," I said, feeling a spark of hope, but still hesitant. Could I trust him? Gregory's voice softened. "You don't have to decide now, but know this. If you're ever ready to make the move, you won't have to fight this battle alone. We've got your back." His words resonated with me, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I had a genuine ally. But I knew I couldn't let this distract me from what I needed to do. This fight wasn't over yet. The next week, I met with David Morrison, the lawyer I'd hired to represent me in this case. I had spent hours going over documents and evidence with him, trying to make sense of the complex legal language. David was methodical, his sharp mind cutting through the noise of the legal system. But the more we worked together, the clearer it became. TechVantage was trying to bury me, and they were doing everything they could to destroy my chances in court. The meeting was tense. David leaned back in his chair, staring at the latest offer from TechVantage's legal team. He looked up at me, his face grave. "They want to settle, Emma," he said, pushing the papers toward me. "They're offering you a sum, but it's not just money. They want to silence you. They want you to walk away." I stared at the papers, the numbers on the page taunting me. I knew this wasn't just about money. It was about justice, about truth. I had worked so hard to get to this point, and I wasn't going to let them buy me out now. "I'm not backing down," I said, my voice unwavering. "I've spent too long being silent. This is my work. I have every right to fight for it." David nodded. "I thought that's what you'd say." "Good. Because this isn't going to be easy. They've got the resources, the lawyers, the influence, but we've got the truth on our side." The realization hit me. This wasn't just a business fight anymore. It was about something bigger than money or company stakes. It was about taking back control of my own life and career. And I wasn't going to let anyone take that from me. The next few weeks were a blur of court hearings, meetings with David, and endless strategizing. Every time I stepped into that courtroom, I could feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. I was no longer just Emma Jennings, the daughter trying to save her father's business. I was Emma Jennings, the woman taking her life back from the chaos. One morning, I sat in the courtroom, listening to the defense attorney from TechVantage argue against my case. He was good, slick with his words, trying to convince the judge that my claims were baseless. But the more he spoke, the more I realized just how desperate they were to hide the truth. When it was finally my turn, I stood up, walked to the podium, and addressed the judge directly. "I don't have a corporate empire to offer," I said, my voice clear. "I don't have the influence of a CEO. What I have is my work, what I've created with my own hands, my own mind, and I'm here to protect that. I'm not asking for a handout, I'm asking for what I'm owed, I'm asking for what is mine." The courtroom was silent. I could feel the judge's gaze on me, steady and unwavering. I knew this wasn't the end, but it felt like the first step in the right direction. Chapter 5. The Final Resolution. It was about standing tall and defending what was mine. Weeks later, the final hearing arrived. The long months of preparation, the endless paperwork, and the countless nights spent reviewing evidence had led to this moment. Every detail of my case had been scrutinized, challenged, and tested, but I was ready. I had nothing left to hide, and nothing left to lose. I walked into the courtroom, my heart still racing, but my mind clear and focused. The final hearing was here, and this was it. The moment I had worked for. The moment that would decide everything. My fingers tightened around the papers in my hands as I sat down beside David Morrison, my lawyer. His calm demeanor gave me a sense of stability, but I knew that this was the day I would finally get what I deserved. The past few months had been a whirlwind. I had spent sleepless nights preparing for this, gathering every piece of evidence, every conversation I had had with my father, every document that proved my case. The legal team from Tech Vantage had tried every trick in the book, questioning my motives, my integrity, even my capabilities. But the truth was undeniable. I had created the algorithm. I had put in the work, the long hours, the sleepless nights. And Tech Vantage had stolen it from me. My father had stolen it from me. He had used my trust and my love for him as leverage, and I had allowed it for far too long. But not anymore. The judge entered the room, and the atmosphere shifted. Everything became quieter, the air thick with anticipation. The decision was about to be made, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me. David leaned over, whispering in my ear, "You've done everything you can. Whatever happens, you fought hard for this." I nodded, taking a deep breath. I wasn't going to let the nerves take over. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This wasn't just about the patent or the business. This was about me, my future, my dignity, and my ability to take back control of my life. The judge called for the final statements. Tech Vantage's attorney spoke first, trying to push the narrative that I was simply after money, that I was attacking my father and his company out of spite. But I wasn't listening to him anymore. His words were just noise. The truth had already been laid out before the court. Our evidence was solid. The emails showing my early drafts, the timestamps from the company's internal servers, and the testimony from former employees all pointed to the same truth. I was the original creator. Tech Vantage had tried to discredit the documents, but digital forensics verified every file. The facts couldn't be denied anymore. When it was my turn, I stood up, the courtroom silent around me. For the first time in this entire process, I felt strong, confident. This was my moment, and I wasn't going to waste it. "I'm not here to destroy anyone," I began, my voice steady and clear. "I'm here to take back what is mine. The patent for the algorithm I developed, the work that I did, is my property. I didn't ask for this fight, but I've been forced into it because my own father, the person who should have supported me, used me instead." I could feel the weight of the words, the anger, the betrayal that still simmered beneath my skin. But I didn't let it control me. I continued, my gaze locked on the judge. "I've given everything to this company, everything to him. And for what? To be manipulated? To be taken advantage of? No, I'm not doing this anymore. This is about standing up for what's right. I'm not just fighting for a patent. I'm fighting for my future. I'm fighting for my independence." There was a pause, the silence hanging heavy in the room. The judge, a woman in her late 50s with sharp, calculating eyes, looked over at me. She hadn't said much during the trial, but I could see the respect in her gaze now. She had heard me. She understood what was at stake. A few moments later, the judge spoke, her voice firm. "The court finds in favor of Emma Jennings. Tech Vantage is hereby ordered to cease all use of the patent and return the intellectual property to Ms. Jennings. Further, damages will be assessed based on the profits made from her work." My heart stopped. The world seemed to blur around me as I tried to process what had just happened. I had won. The fight was over, and I had won. David's hand was on my shoulder before I even realized it. "You did it," he said, his voice a mix of pride and relief. "You've won." I blinked, still in shock. The room seemed to be spinning around me. The years of sacrifice, the sleepless nights, the constant doubts, all of it had led to this moment. I had fought for myself, for my future, and now the world was mine to reclaim. As the courtroom emptied, the sound of my victory still echoed in my mind. I should have felt triumphant, but what I really felt was exhaustion. Winning didn't erase the years of pain or betrayal. It didn't bring back the trust I had lost. Yet deep down, I knew this was the first time I truly chose myself. Later that afternoon, I sat in my apartment, alone. The city below me buzzed with life, but everything felt quiet, like I was in a different world. I thought back to my time with my father, to the way things used to be before the lies, before the betrayal. But now, I was no longer that person. I was someone new, someone who had taken back her power. And I was ready to move forward. The phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a message from Gregory Sullivan, the CEO of Precision Systems. I know this is a big step, but if you ever want to take this further, we're ready to offer you a seat at the table. You've earned it. For the first time in years, I felt like I had control over my own fate. I wasn't living in my father's shadow anymore. I was building my future, one decision at a time. As I read Gregory's message again, a small smile tugged at my lips. It was time to move on, time to reclaim my life. If you've ever had to choose between family and freedom, you know how hard it is to let go. But sometimes, justice begins the moment you stop apologizing for who you are. Tell me, what would you have done in my place? Share your thoughts, and remember, some endings aren't about revenge. They're about finally being free.